And today I want to just talk about NPCs. So, if you are a DM and you're looking for, you want characters that can interact with your player characters, and you're looking for something that keeps the players interested, or maybe makes them something memorable that they can go back to. There's a couple different things that you can do with NPCs. Is you want to have someone be able to tell the players information, or you might want to have them be an adversary of some kind, either verbal or social, or possibly in a combat situation. Or you might want to have someone who is an like an obstacle to overcome. So what I found is that making an NPC memorable is one of the more important things to do for any NPC. And this can be as important as someone like your major big bad, or it can be something as simple as the innkeeper or shopkeeper. And if you want your players to go back to the same shopkeeper, so you don't have to create a whole bunch of different generic seeming NPCs, it's better to have one that's memorable, that they like and they want to go back to. Now, a lot of DMs early on start out with trying to make their NPCs all adversarial, and that's not necessarily it is memorable, but it's not always that enjoyable. You need a mixture of adversarial and friendly ones, and some just neutral. So, a couple things for making them memorable. I got a couple different types of advice. First of all, the general advice, and then some specific examples I want to try. And I'm kind of just making this up on the spot, but I have some general ideas. So, first step is the general advice is you need, I would say, generally three things to know about an NPC. And you don't need to have stats. None of this has anything to do with stats unless you think there's going to be actual combat. And even in that case, you can always pull stats of a monster or a creature, or there's a bunch of humanoid NPCs in the monster manual, so you can pull that at any time, or just have a reference. But if you want to have the NPC interactive with the party, you need three things: the hook, the secret or purpose, and motivation. And so the hook is sort of your surface level memorable trait. So it could be an accent if you're good with doing different voices. It could be sounds like a specific character. It could be a personality trait. It could be a funny name. It could be anything that gets the players interested in finding out about this person. It could be a description of what the character looks like, very unusual description. Got it. Okay. That NPC did not live. All right. The second step is making a secret or purpose. And this one is kind of optional because it doesn't really need to be there. But what I find is, even if it never gets used, I always like to have everything that I create for the players have some kind of secret to it, so that they don't. So that there's always something that they could find out that may lead to some other interesting story elements or role playing elements. And so, especially with NPCs, because that's a big part of the interaction with the players, having just an idea of some secret that either this character has about themselves, or some secret that they know that they don't want the players to find out. And it doesn't it should tie somewhat into your story if possible, but it could just be something interesting about them that they don't want you to know, so you can play that as sort of a hesitancy that the or that the NPC has with the players asking them questions. So, and you can keep that in the back of your mind. It can influence how your NPC acts, because if they somehow stumble upon the something relating to the secret, they could slightly reveal something that they might know. And if the players are doing some kind of investigative uh, situation, they may want to question that NPC further and find out the secret. And usually, you can make some rolls and stuff to see if they persuade the NPC to talk about it, but you can decide how willing the NPC is, or how likely the NPC is to give up the information, and maybe they won't give up the whole story, but they'll point them in a different direction. And so just keeping that in mind for every NPC you create, just put a little note of something secret that they could have about themselves. And you can find charts and tables of stuff like that on the internet. You can roll it up, or you can just make one up as you sort of create the hook and the idea about the character. A secret might come to you. And then the third one is motivation. Every character is going to seem more realistic if you give them a motivation that you have planned in advance. Even if it's just, the motivation might be for a shopkeeper, might be to sell the players something, but it might also be to like get them as long-term customers. It might be to give them rip them off or something, or it might be to sell them something that leads them in the wrong direction to protect someone else that they know of that might be part of their secret. So the motivation can be tied to the secret, but doesn't necessarily have to be. And the motivation will just inform your role playing as to whether the NPC is like in opposition with the players, or like hostile or whatever, or whether their goals tend to align, and then as they talk, they realize that they both kind of want the same things. And if that does line up, then the NPC can shift towards more favorable interaction with the characters, and maybe offer them some better information, or some items that can help them if they're strongly aligned together in particular goals. And then for specifics, I like to for myself take characters that I can do voices for, and I like to do voices for my NPCs and other characters, and when I'm playing as a player. So I like to do a different voice, and I usually will take an accent that I've either made up myself or sort of taken from an existing real world accent, or I'll take a character from a TV show or something like that, to kind of make something familiar that's easy to imitate and that you can like observe and reuse. Generally with that kind of thing, I would try to like look for really obscure characters, like not your standard Christopher Walken imitation or something like that. They're definitely going to recognize that as something. And if you want your campaign to be a little more silly, you can go with that kind of stuff. And I like that kind of thing, but I would generally reserve the well-known characters for sort of humorous campaigns, and maybe for important characters, especially if you're doing something a little more serious, you might want to just take something from a more serious show or a movie. And but if you're just doing like a shopkeeper or something like that, a simple accent, or a obscure TV show reference or something. I once did in my Thoradin campaign. They encountered a youth that was just living in a shanty town outside of a city, and I didn't have anything planned for that character, so on the spur of the moment, I just used like a dude type voice, like Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And so his voice was sort of like, "Whoa, dudes, what are you doing? What are you looking for?" And then they asked him for some information. And he was like, "Oh yeah, dude, that's down the road. You got to check around on this area, this old farm down there, stuff like that." And so you can quickly pull that one out if you've done that voice before. You can use it for that character, and it's kind of a throwaway character voice. If you wanted a more specific thing, you could do like a specific accent. A lot of people use Scottish for dwarves, and the only thing about that is that all your dwarves kind of sound kind of similar. So you might want to say, okay, some dwarves in this region are sort of Scottish, and other dwarves from this region might be more German or something like that, just to be a little different. And maybe in your world there are specific reasons for why they might have certain accents. And then another interesting character traits you can use for like the hook, you can give them a personality kind of flaw that is interesting. Like, for example, having someone talk in the third person, you know, like on Legends of Evantris has the character Torbeck, and he always refers to himself as Torbeck. And I don't know if I can do his. Oh, Torbeck doesn't like that. Yeah, like that. And then you could pick sort of a character trait like that goes along with it. Like say he's arrogant, so you could have like um, Jack Burton. You know, Jack Burton, me. He's always talking about old Jack Burton. You know, never does that or something. You can have him say things like that, and people go, "Who? Jack Burton, me." That kind of stuff. Or you could have someone be crazy, like I always do sort of a Junkrat voice for crazy people, but yes, I'm a little bit under the weather today, and do silly laughs and stuff like that, and you can just identify that. Or Junkrat doesn't like that, and things like that. Or you could do a little cutesy character like, oh, Fiddlesticks doesn't like that. Fiddlesticks is scared. Or Dobby, from uh, Harry Potter world. Oh, Dobby. Dobby is so scared. Dobby's very worried about Mr. Harry Potter. Things like that. So you can just do a little bit of different types of personality traits with the third person character trait. And then you can use other character traits, like someone might be, like a gruff person who never says much. You might have someone with a funny laugh. Like I did this one character called Buffalo Bill in a um, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles After the Bomb campaign, and he had this laugh. Ho, ho, ho. He'd always laugh that way, and it wasn't really like you didn't have to do a laugh. You could just make this noise. And so you do little traits like that. Like those characters, even to this day, that was like 20 years ago. And even today, those I can do that laugh and people remember that character. Um, some other things that I've heard other people do that I haven't done are like when a certain character, an important character, comes into the room and their game is really driven by music. They can play a certain tune or a certain little whistle or set of notes whenever that character comes into the scene. So you can create tension if this is a bad guy, and have something where they come into the scene and you hear or something like that, and then they're like, oh wait, they don't know where that person is, but they know he's around somewhere or they're going to encounter him soon. That can be a really interesting thing. That's not even directly a part of the NPC character trait, but it associates the character with that sound to the players, so that when they hear that, they just get they immediately get into the anticipation of meeting that character again. Um, and then just like try to make the character do something um, either very positive or very negative towards the characters. So if you want a character that they're going to fight later, you might want him to do something like really aggressive towards the characters, like hurt one of their NPC friends, um, or one of the party members that everybody likes. Or you might want to make them do something cooperative, and they might do you a really good favor, or just be really friendly every time you come around. They're really happy to see you, like on Critical Role with Gilmore. The players just love Gilmore and they don't want to see anything bad happen to him. And so later on, if they've grown to like this NPC, they always go to him for their supplies and he becomes their favorite NPC. Then you can sort of put that NPC in danger and the players will immediately react to that. They will get a strong attachment to that character and feel like it's a friend of theirs, and like a real life friend, and someone they would just drop anything for. And you've got an instant hook into an adventure that way. You can pull people in with just like, it's kind of cheap a little bit to threaten the NPC that they love, but I mean it drives them to do stuff way more than like, hey, here's a job and you're gonna get some gold from it and you're gonna get a magic item. It's like threatening a well-loved NPC is way more powerful because people react emotionally to that kind of thing. So that's my bit on creating memorable NPCs. I have some more interesting notes that you might want to look at. I'll put a link to this in my in this video at the bottom. This is some of Matt Mercer's actual notes, and he put up a few things here and there. Like he's got this. I'll put this clip into building RPG NPCs. You can watch him talk about it. He's really good too. And his notes say like distinguishing between major and minor NPCs, as I was saying. Basic elements for minor NPCs, you know, description based stuff. What class are they, maybe? General alignment and morality, affiliations in your world, who they're friends with in your world to keep the verisimilitude in there. And then keep some little quick notes in case they come up in conversations. So that would be like making notes about your secret or purpose. Major NPCs, you're going to want to do a little more detail on these because they're going to be, you know, a lot more important. And this doesn't mean that they're major to like the world. They're major to your PCs. So driving elements, what are their motivations, ideals, fears, in conversations where a lot of answers would come from, knowing how to play that character. If you know what drives them, it's a lot easier to play and have conversations as that character. What's their disposition towards the players? Talked a bit about that already. Indifferent, friendly, or hostile. This might change through players' actions, definitely. Appearance, notable equipment, mannerisms, quirks. Matt Mercer's way better than me at describing things. And so when he describes a character, he goes into real detail, like what the texture of their clothing feels like and stuff like that. So you can go as deep or as light as you want on that. Capabilities, this can be good if you think there might be combat. Combat sheet, you know, what are they going to do if they fight them? Silly voices, keep notes on vocal texture, tones, dialects, and accents. So if you've done a voice for a character, I highly recommend, if you don't record your games already, go make a recording of an example of that character talking about something. And then just before you do a session, pick the NPCs that you're going to be probably using in that game and just go listen to your own voice playing those characters, and you'll be reminded as to what they sound like. Another thing to do is if you have like a lot of voice actors do this, they will take a signature line of a character, and you can do this with any like if you wanted to imitate a existing, you know, TV or movie character, you take one of their signature lines and then you just say that either under your breath or like out loud. It could be a greeting that they use, or it could be something like, you know, like just a common thing. Like say you want to do, I don't know, like Krusty the Clown. You know, I only need one noise to start doing Krusty. It's like, you know, I don't know if I can do that. You know, just a little bit of a gruff voice sound. You know, another one is or you could just say their name. It's like, I'm Fiddlesticks, and that's what I do for getting into that character. So if you do, if you have that, you can just keep it in your head. What's the line I use to get back into this character? Just say that to yourself in your head or out loud, under your breath, whatever you need to do. And that can help you keep back on getting onto the accent. And then if you compare notes, following an NPC, if you follow the NPC series, these are the things he's talking about for the video. This is someone else actually taking these notes, I believe, on that article. The distinction between minor and major NPCs is in line with casual versus storyline NPC. So take a look at that. Affiliations are in line with the relationship mentioned by Brandon Mull and Brandon Sanderson. I follow Brandon Sanderson too. He's got excellent advice for creating, you know, characters for books and stuff like that. But a lot of that advice can also be used for NPCs in your game. So you don't need to go into such detail as he might, because he's trying to keep his characters consistent within the writing of his whole story. But if you're just doing it for like a one-off character that the players might meet, it doesn't necessarily have to be long running or not. But it can be helpful if you do think of those things beforehand, keeping your world seeming like it's a living world. And then Brandon Mull, Brandon Sanderson, Matt Colville also. Motivation as one of the most important parts of an NPC. So this is what drives at the actions and answers of your NPCs. And then disposition towards the players. Again, perception. So that's some extra advice beyond mine, but it's very similar to how I do things for NPCs. All right, I'm gonna move on now and just pull up my Overwatch because I think I've blabbed on for long enough. Okay, let me just take a break here, and I will be back. Oh, you know what? I didn't show that on screen. All right, well, let's see if I can get that on screen. There it is. Okay. Anyway, not sure if that can be. Yeah, here's the page. It's building RPG NPCs with Matt Mercer. And then here's all the notes I just talked about. So, yeah, I may just try and edit that back into the conversation. But now, anyway, I'm going to go to break, and then you can look at that later.